Morocco, where the Atlas Mountains rise like ancient sentinels over valleys painted in ochre and gold, where the Mediterranean and Atlantic kiss shores lined with bustling ports and timeless medinas. From the blue-washed streets of Chefchaouen to the labyrinthine souks of Marrakech, from the Roman ruins of Volubilis to the modernist towers of Casablanca, this is a land where history breathes in every corner. For centuries, Morocco has been shaped by powerful dynasties. The Almoravids and Almohads built empires that stretched across North Africa and into Spain. The Saadian sultans adorned cities with palaces and gardens. The Alawite dynasty, which rules to this day, has reigned since the 17th century, navigating colonialism, independence, and modernization. In 1956, Morocco broke free from French and Spanish colonial rule, emerging as a sovereign nation under King Mohamed V. His son, Hassan II, ruled with an iron fist through the years of lead, decades marked by political repression and human rights abuses. When Mohamed VI ascended the throne in 1999, many hoped for reform and openness. But today, more than 2 decades into his reign, a new generation has come of age. They've inherited a nation of stunning beauty and deep contradictions, and they're no longer willing to accept the status quo. Gen Z, bold, connected, and unafraid, is demanding change. They're not just protesting. They're calling out a system that's failed them, a system built on corruption, inequality, and silence. Before we dive deeper into their struggle, let's understand who these young Moroccans really are, how they live, what they dream of, and what shapes their daily reality. In the bustling streets of Casablanca and Rabat, Gen Z navigates a world of contrasts. They sip coffee in trendy cafes with free Wi-Fi, scrolling through Instagram and TikTok, where Moroccan influencers blend traditional culture with global trends. They listen to a fusion of sounds, from Nawa rhythms and Chabi classics to French rap, American hip-hop, and homegrown artists like El Grande Toto and Manal Ben Shlika, who rap about social issues and identity in Darija, French, and English. Fashion is a statement. In urban centers, you'll see young women in hijabs paired with streetwear, others in Western styles, and some in traditional kaftans reimagined with modern cuts. Young men sport everything from jalabas to designer sneakers. This generation expresses itself through style, music, and digital platforms, creating a vibrant hybrid culture that's distinctly Moroccan yet globally connected. But life looks very different beyond the cities. In rural areas and smaller towns, many young people still lack reliable internet access. Schools are often under-resourced, with overcrowded classrooms and outdated materials. Daily life revolves around family, agriculture, and tradition. Yet even here, smartphones are becoming common, and young people dream of opportunities, education, travel, careers that feel frustratingly out of reach. Whether in Tangier or Tinghir, Moroccan Gen Z shares common aspirations. They want quality education that leads to real jobs, not just diplomas. They want to stay in their country and build futures here, rather than risk dangerous migration routes to Europe. They want their voices heard, their talents recognized, and their dignity respected. They're entrepreneurial, creative, and hungry for change. But the system they've inherited makes those dreams feel like distant mirages. At the top of Morocco's power structure sits the royal family, with King Mohamed VI and his inner circle controlling vast sectors of the economy. From telecommunications to banking, real estate to retail, the monarchy isn't just symbolic. It's deeply embedded in business. And many of the country's most powerful businessmen have quietly transitioned into politics, blurring the line between public service and private profit. For decades, this elite class has shaped policy to protect their interests, while the majority of Moroccans struggle to make ends meet. Morocco is rich in natural resources. It holds over 70% of the world's phosphate reserves, a critical ingredient in global agriculture. Its waters are teeming with fish. Its soil hides gold, and recent discoveries of offshore gas promise even more wealth. But this abundance hasn't translated into prosperity for the people. Instead, it's concentrated in the hands of a few. The 1% reap the profits, while rural communities lack basic infrastructure. Schools are underfunded, hospitals are overcrowded, and youth unemployment remains one of the highest in North Africa. The wealth exists, but it never reaches those who need it most. Let's look at the numbers. Youth unemployment in Morocco hovers around 30%. Nearly 1 in 3 young people can't find work. For those with university degrees, the rate is even higher, sometimes exceeding 40%. Imagine spending years studying only to graduate into a void of opportunity. Education access tells another troubling story. While urban areas boast universities and technical schools, rural regions often lack even basic secondary schools. Girls in remote areas face additional barriers: long distances to school, early marriage pressure, and limited family support for higher education. The dropout rate in rural areas can reach 50% before students finish high school. The rural-urban divide cuts deep. In cities, infrastructure exists, but opportunities are scarce and competition is fierce. In the countryside, opportunities are even fewer, and basic services, clean water, electricity, healthcare, remain inadequate. Young people in the Rift Mountains or the Atlas Valleys watch as government investment flows to coastal cities and tourist destinations, while their communities are left behind. Consider Youssef, a 23-year-old from a small town near Beni Mellal. He earned a degree in engineering but has been unemployed for 2 years. He applies to dozens of jobs, but most require connections, family ties, or bribes to secure positions. Without wasta, without influence, his qualifications mean little. He's considering joining friends who've already left for Europe, risking everything for a chance at dignity. Or Fatima, 19, from a village outside Arachidia. She dreams of becoming a teacher, but the nearest university is hours away, and her family can't afford the cost of housing in the city. She watches her male cousins get priority for education funding while she's expected to marry young and stay close to home. She uses her phone to follow online courses when she can, teaching herself English and coding, hoping somehow to break through the barriers. These aren't isolated cases. They're the reality for millions of young Moroccans who see their potential wasted, their dreams deferred, and their dignity denied by a system that serves the few at the expense of the many. This is where Gen Z draws the line. They're not asking for luxury. They're asking for dignity. They want a functioning education system, not one that pushes them into underpaid jobs or out of the country. They want healthcare that heals, not hospitals that turn them away. They want jobs that match their skills, not empty promises. And they're tired of watching billions of dollars poured into mega projects like the World Cup while their communities crumble. We want schools, not stadiums, they chant. We want doctors, not diplomats. This generation refuses to stay silent. They've seen the inequality, they've felt the injustice, and now they're demanding a future that works for everyone, not just the privileged few. But demanding change is one thing. Taking action is another, and Moroccan Gen Z has proven they're willing to do both. The seeds of youth activism were planted during the Arab Spring. In February 2011, inspired by uprisings across the region, thousands of young Moroccans took to the streets as part of the February 20th movement. They called for constitutional reform, an end to corruption, and greater democracy. The movement was largely youth-led, organized through Facebook, and coordinated via text messages and word of mouth. While the government responded with some reforms, including a new constitution, many activists felt the changes were superficial, leaving the fundamental power structures untouched. That spirit of resistance never died, it evolved. In recent years, protests have erupted over education reform. In 2019 and 2020, thousands of students and teachers demonstrated against government plans to increase the use of French in schools, which many saw as undermining Arabic and Amazigh languages and favoring the elite. The protests were met with police crackdowns, but the movement persisted, with young people using social media to document abuses and organize solidarity. Digital activism has become a powerful tool. Hashtags like #SilMagazine and RifHirak have trended as young Moroccans expose corruption, police brutality, and social injustice. They film protests on their phones, share stories of repression, and build networks of support that transcend geographic boundaries. The government has responded by arresting bloggers and activists, but the digital resistance continues to grow. One powerful example is Nawal Ben Issa, a young activist and rapper who uses her music to speak out against inequality and authoritarianism. Her songs blend traditional Moroccan sounds with hard-hitting lyrics about poverty, corruption, and the struggles of ordinary people. She's faced harassment and threats, but she continues to perform and organize, inspiring other young artists to use their platforms for social change. Another is the story of the Rif Hirak movement, which began in 2016 after the death of Mucin Fikri, a fish seller crushed in a garbage truck while trying to retrieve his confiscated goods. The tragedy sparked months of protests in the Rif region, led largely by young people demanding jobs, development, and an end to marginalization. The government's response was harsh: mass arrests, long prison sentences for protest leaders. But the movement galvanized a generation and exposed the depth of regional grievances. These young activists aren't just angry. They're organized, creative, and strategic. They know the risks: arrest, intimidation, exile. But they also know that silence is no longer an option. They're building coalitions, learning from movements around the world, and refusing to let their generation be written off as lost or apathetic. So where does this leave Morocco? Where does it leave Gen Z? The future is unwritten, but it's being shaped right now by the courage and creativity of young Moroccans who refuse to accept the world as it is. They're artists and activists, students and entrepreneurs, dreamers and doers. They're reclaiming public spaces, redefining what it means to be Moroccan, and reimagining what their country could become. They envision a Morocco where wealth is shared, not hoarded, where education opens doors instead of closing them, where healthcare is a right, not a privilege, where young people can build lives of dignity without having to leave their homeland, where voices are heard, not silenced, where justice is real, not just a word in a constitution. This generation has inherited a legacy of resilience. Their grandparents fought for independence. Their parents survived the years of lead. Now, they're fighting for a different kind of freedom, the freedom to thrive, to participate, to shape their own destiny. The road ahead is long and uncertain. The forces of power and privilege won't give up easily. But Moroccan Gen Z has something the old guard doesn't: hope, solidarity, and the unshakable belief that change is possible. They're not going to cave or hide like their parents or grandparents did for their dictators. This new generation is looking for a brighter future where dignity and respect are their top priority. The question remains: will the king change his ways dealing with this generation, or he will do what he does best, put them in prison and try to silence them? Please like, share, and subscribe so we can grow our YouTube community.